What are the best matchups and worst matchups for your wide receivers and tight ends for fantasy football in week 6? And who should be starting and sitting on the fringe here this week? It's time to break it down right here and right now as we begin another edition of Locked On Fantasy Football.
Our Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL and fantasy football for sportingnews.com. We have my Stardom Situm column up there, The Decider. It's up there every Tuesday afternoon / evening there. We broke down the quarterbacks and running backs, the rankings, and the start-sit advice there at those two positions on Wednesday show, Matchup Wednesday. If you missed that, go back and check that out. We have Thursday Night Football tonight between the Commanders and Bears. So we'll see what wide receivers and tight ends we want to play in that game or avoid, and also go into the weekend games through the Monday Night Football game between the Broncos and Chargers. Before then, we have two great Sunday games to close things out here with the Bills going to Kansas City to play the Chiefs and the Cowboys and Eagles. So some really monumental matchups here. We know we have 4 teams on bye again. Once again, Las Vegas, Houston, Tennessee, and Detroit all not playing this week. So if you got any players on the Raiders, Texans, Titans, or Lions, do not put them in your lineups this week. That's the starter thing there to do, but we're going to look at the rest of the players there, wide receiver, tight end, and of course, streaming defenses will be part of today's show as well. Today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is presented by our friends at Prize Picks. It is Crossover Thursday. Prize Picks is so much fun. It's easy to play. No competing with other players. Just you versus the projections available. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. You can literally take less than 60 seconds to enter. It's that easy. We love Prize Picks, and we know you will too. First-time users can receive a 100% deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. Thanks again for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen today. We're free and available to you on all platforms. All right, let's dive into the wide receiver rankings first. We'll get into the wide receiver starts. Then we'll look at the guys that you want to sit there in our next segment, and then also look at our tight end plays and rankings for the week as well. Sits there, and defenses that I recommended, defenses that I would not play here, depending on your league scoring format in week 6. All right, start at wide receiver, the easy guys, Cooper Kupp. The Panthers have J.C. Horn banged up. It doesn't really matter. Cooper Kupp will eat against the Panthers. He'll be fine. This is a tougher pass defense. I know this team's not playing great, but Kupp's still getting it done, even if Matthew Stafford and the rest of this offense is struggling. Justin Jefferson, good matchup. We'll see if Xavier Howard plays this week, but he missed last week's game against the Jets, and it was not very pretty. So this week, Jefferson, he gets actually a real alpha with experience here. Jefferson coming off a big game. So if Howard's not out there with Nick Needham and their other cover men, Justin Jefferson can destroy that matchup. Stephon Diggs, again, the Chiefs have some young corners that they're trying to get out there to make some plays, including Jalen Watson. Rashad Fenton has been picked on quite a bit. He's actually hurt. So great matchup here for Stephon Diggs and the Bills passing game. Jamar Chase should like the fact that Marshawn Lattimore is a little bit banged up here for the Saints. T. Higgins, he could use him on the other side to take some pressure off here, but Jamar Chase, I think, has a rebound game. Keep in mind, he played at LSU, does the gritty. I think coming back home is going to put up some numbers with his Bayou buddy Joe Burrow this week. Deebo Samuel can crush the Falcons. That's a no-brainer. Mike Evans, a little bit underwhelming last week against the Falcons, but the Steelers one-on-one coverage, I think he'll dominate that here for a big game. So he's number 6. Marquise Hollywood Brown bringing it. He's actually the wide receiver 5 in a lot of formats this season. So to the Hollywood, he's delivered. This is the last game with DeAndre Hopkins. So Seahawks can't cover him. So another big game for Hollywood. Michael Pittman, I think, will rebound here at a decent game against the Broncos, but I think he gets warmed up a little bit more against the Jaguars. He didn't play in the first matchup, by the way. DK Metcalf, and he keeps bringing it here. So good matchup there for Metcalf versus the Cardinals. You got Tyreek Hill. He's got a foot injury and other issues, but he's going to be out there against the Vikings, can roast Patrick Peterson and Cameron Dantzler there, even with Skylar Thompson starting at quarterback. A.J. Brown here for the Eagles. It's been quiet since week one, that explosion. It's not been that big, but I think he'll get going this week against the Cowboys, who take some chances on the back end with Trayvon Diggs. Mike Williams, I get it. The matchup with Pat Surtain, too, is kind of tricky, but he's their clear number one, and Keenan Allen looks like he's going to miss another game this week. And Williams has quietly produced every game without Allen here pretty well here for you this season. T. Higgins, if he plays, you're going back to him against the Saints, but it could be either way there. Cortland Sutton, a tough matchup there for the Broncos, but it's a little bit tougher on Jerry Jeudy than Cortland Sutton, so I like him at 14, matching his jersey number. Christian Kirk should destroy Kenny Moore in the slot for a second time this season and rebound from two quiet games against the Eagles and Texans. Tyler Lockett is on fire here with Geno Smith. They're playing the Cardinals, so Lockett and Metcalf both have a good history against that team. Gabe Davis, another great matchup for him with Diggs against the Chiefs. CeeDee Lamb, he's going to see probably a little bit of Darius Slay when he lines up outside, but Avonte Maddox, their slot corner is a little bit banged up, so that should help a little bit with CeeDee Lamb, as well as greater volume there for Cooper Rush. Chris Godwin, the Steelers can't really cover anything on the inside either. We saw that against Khalil Shakir last week, so Godwin is good to go there as a top 20 guy. Rounding out the top 20 is Jalen Waddle. Let's hope that a growing injury is less limiting this week, but you figure maybe a few more shorter passes there with Skylar Thompson making his first start here. Keenan Allen, I don't feel great about him, but he's there in the top 24 if you need him. Chris Olave, also not very good here with the concussion, didn't practice, so you might not have Allen or Olave in the pool this week. And Terry McLaurin, this matchup got a little bit tougher on Thursday night with one Jalen Johnson returning. He's a pretty good corner out of Utah. There are other corners, including Kendall Victor and Kyler Gordon, are not that great for the Bears, so McLaurin might have it a little bit tougher than we thought here going into the game, but still he's a top target here without Jahan Dotson being involved for the Commanders. All right, let's get into some players that we would also play this week that maybe question marks. Drake London. Look, the 49ers have a pretty good cover corner system here, but they could also be without one Emmanuel Mosley. He had a bad knee injury last week at the end of the Panthers game, so that's going to open things up. Should be some garbage time here for London to produce there for Marcus Mariota, especially with Kyle Pitts a little bit hurting with that hamstring injury. I think he'll probably play this week and return, but again, London is their healthiest option at this stage. It looked like he tweaked something there at the end of the last game, but he's good to go here for this game without having any limitations in practice. Devonta Smith, again, you're going to keep playing him. He's been really the more productive guy here the last several weeks after the very quiet week one where he didn't do anything. He has really started to be a big factor here with Jalen Hurts in the passing game as the teams are focusing a lot of attention on A.J. Brown and coverage. Al Lazard, all he does is score touchdowns. He's now locked in, no ankle injury issue at all. So he's clearly the number one for the Packers overall when you look at the consistency and high leverage usage. Adam Thielen is playing the Dolphins this week. I was going to say he was playing the Vikings. He plays for the Vikings, but playing off Justin Jefferson. Very bad slot coverage here. They're very thin, especially if Xavier Howard doesn't play for the Dolphins, Keon Crossan and some of the other guys that they trot out there. So Adam Thielen is going to rebound here in the slot in that matchup against the Dolphins. Curtis Samuel, love that matchup. Again, we mentioned that Jalen Johnson's back, but their other corners are terrible. Kyler Gordon, I really liked him coming out of Washington. I think he can be a good corner in time and a very good guy in the nickel, but not right now. So Curtis Samuel should be eat there in that matchup. DJ Moore, you might see a little bit of Jalen Ramsey, but they've kind of played him in that one kind of position where he's in the middle of the field and kind of roaming, kind of like a half safety, half shutdown corner. So DJ Moore can get open, and he also has a good chemistry with PJ Walker that is a little bit underrated. Jacoby Myers, keep him in your lineup. Denzel Ward has battling a concussion here. Greg Newsome hasn't played all that well on the other side. I know Myers plays a lot of slot, and you also have inexperience there with their players. I think their best corner is actually the rookie Martin Emerson. So, and when you look at Jacoby Myers, he should have another good game here. Good chemistry early with Bailey Zappi, quarterback. George Pickens should get some garbage time there against the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers secondary is quite banged up. Carlton Davis is going to play through an injury, but Sean Murphy-Bunting is a little bit hampered here as well. So the depth could be hurting a little bit for the Buccaneers, and garbage time for Pickens with the volume from Pickett. You look at Tyler Boyd. If T. Higgins sits out, I think he has a good chance to produce here. They contain the tight end a little bit, so that's going to help Boyd in the slot there. Again, they're still pretty weak at that spot there, especially if Lattimore doesn't play. Then it's going to change the things around after Paulson Adebo. So I do like Tyler Boyd quite a bit this week. Darnell Mooney, love the matchup. It doesn't get any better than this. Commander secondary, it's awful. They're also down William Jackson. So Kendall Fuller and Benjamin St. Juste have really struggled in coverage here for the Commanders. Mooney, this should be his best game. He did have a 100-yard receiving game on a big play a couple of weeks ago. The Commanders don't really have much of a pass rush. I know the Bears are not great in pass protection, but I think Mooney has his best game of the season. I think he finds the end zone against the Commanders. Alec Pierce, I really like his usage with Michael Pittman now. They're kind of phasing the tight end committee out here. So Alec Pierce replacing them, and they're starting to feel it with Matt Ryan. I think he'll have an even bigger role after 2 solid games here as a rookie out of Cincinnati. Zay Jones, if you need him, I think he'll be more regular into the rotation against the Colts this week. And Rondale Moore, probably his last chance to have a key role here with the DeAndre Hopkins return looming here. But I think he's right there with now Zach Ertz and Marquise Brown as the third target in the top 3 there for Kyler Murray, with the way things are going with AJ Green also banged up. So anywhere else, if we go a little bit deeper, I think that's about it this week for the recommendations there to start. That should round out a pretty good starting lineup for you in most leagues there with 3 wideouts and flex consideration as well for week number 6. Now, we will get into the wide receivers that I don't like. Then we'll break down the tight end starts, and then we'll go to the tight end sits and the defensive recommendations this week here. So it's time to make sure all our things are secure. And here's a sports analogy for you folks. When it comes to burglars, your home is like the end zone, and you need the absolute strongest defense you can muster. This is why I use and trust Simply Safe Home Security. It's Simply Safe. Your safety is the only thing that matters. It's cutting-edge technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back, so you always know your home is safe. Now, really, Simply Safe is so easy to use, just like the name. Really, the advanced technology is excellent because you can control your system from your phone with the app, and you'll watch everything going on with crystal clear HD live stream of your security cameras or the wide variety of high-tech sensors that they all have at Simply Safe. Now, really, Simply Safe professionals are outstanding. 24/7, they have monitoring agents to take care of you, as well as their tech support staff that if you have any issues, you're going to get it corrected pretty quickly. So Simply Safe blankets your home in protection with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door. Our monitoring experts at Simply Safe, they use proprietary advanced response technology to visually confirm when a break-in is real, so you can get the highest priority police dispatch. So good stuff there with Simply Safe there to keep you, your home, and your family protected here. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/LockedOnNFL. That's simplisafe.com/LockedOnNFL. Save 20% off on your Simply Safe security system when you visit, and sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplysafe.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more. There's no safe like Simply Safe. All right, we will get into the rest of our wide receiver analysis here, guys that we don't like as much this week based on their matchups. Thanks again for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. Make sure you check out Key Predictions every Friday